when I had that Caprice. I had that Caprice in Birmingham. I had a Chevy Caprice, 95 Chevy Caprice, and I was working at this hotel, and I was a food and beverage manager, so I wore a suit to work at that time. And I remember a cop pulled me over in Homewood, walked up to the window, put a flashlight in the car, and saw I had a suit on, turned around and walked off because I wasn't what he was looking for. He was looking for somebody in that car in a different situation. And when he saw I had a suit on, he was like, oh, I just walked off but that is an inappropriate pullover.
What up? It's Three Brothers No Sense. I am Tavares Ferguson, a.k.a. Ferg, joined my co-hosts, Buff and Razi, and we have a special guest with us tonight. You guys know him as that smart motherfucker. Razi, reintroduce your LB to the people.
Yeah. Brandon R. Davis, Dr. Brandon R. Davis, my line brother, aka T-Bone, aka PH Delicious.
Hey, you can't call another man delicious even with a PH in front of it.
I was glad you said
I didn't want you to always be the bad guy, Razi, but I had to step in right there.
It was hilarious when he first got his PhD. That's the title he put on there, and we've been on him ever since about that. We like that. We ain't calling him that.
I sure did.
You just did. You just did.
Yeah, I sure did. The first picture I posted after I did my defense, I was like, PhD licious.
Only you, bro. Only you.
It's still up. It's still up on my Facebook. I'm unashamed.
Why wouldn't it be? Why wouldn't it be?
But no, you guys, like Ferg said, you guys know him. With everything that's going on today, with the stuff that's happening in Georgia, we got the Chauvin trial going on. We needed to get that smart motherfucker back on so he can kind of walk us through it and let us know what's going on the poli sci tip. So, Brandon, Trey Dog, welcome again, bro.
Thank you. I appreciate y'all having me.
Well, fellas, let's jump into it. How has your week gone? What's going on in your world? What's new?
Man, I was tired, boss. So just on the work tip, man, you guys know PNC bought out BBVA, and it's a lot of work merging two large companies. I'll just put it like that. It is a lot of work. I've been working around the clock and then still trying to kind of get everything together. Easter just passed by. Had to do the Easter baskets and be the Easter bunny and all of that good stuff. So it's been a good week, but at the same time, man, like I said, I'm tired. I'm real tired.
You said you were the Easter bunny?
Yeah, I had to play Easter bunny, bro. Like hiding eggs and
okay. I didn't know you dressed up or hopped around or whatever. I mean, because you did you just called another grown ass man PH Delicious, so I ain't know where it just stopped. So
I didn't call him PH Delicious. No, I said he was also known as PhD Delicious or PH Delicious. It's not PhD Delicious.
He was giving us all the aliases. Yeah.
Maybe I heard it wrong. I'll let the fans decide.
Speaking of fans decide, man, I know you watched the verses, Ferg. I did not. I don't typically watch those, except for the one, Jeezy and Gucci, man, because I knew it was going to be messy. But I didn't watch it, but I still know a lot of people were pissed at Steve Harvey. And my question for everybody that watched that verses is, what did you expect from Steve Harvey? His whole career has been about getting gigs that are about him. The Steve Harvey Show. Family Feud is about him. The Think Like a Man or whatever that movie was, about him. Everything he does is about him. So once you heard that he was hosting it, why would you think anything else other than it would be about him? I'm just trying to see why people were mad about that.
Yeah. And well, in my defense, I didn't even know he was hosting it. Like all I knew was Earth, Wind and Fire and the Isley Brothers.
Yeah, they only did it because he hosted. They wanted him there.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, they wanted him there.
Hey, you gotta bring your friends up. Make sure they on. And Ryan Isley, can we talk about Ryan Isley beard? Like he had me feeling like some type of way. Like I'm jealous now.
So-
I want to get me my beard salt and pepper now.
So now I gotta agree with Ferg. You done called a man pH delicious, and you want to swoon over another man's beard. Okay, you 2 for 2.
I ain't swooning over it. I'm just saying.
2 for 2. Nah, it's cool. It's cool.
I'm not swooning over it. What I'm saying is,
we are
I
a forward-thinking show, sir. So if you want to
we're clarifying where your stances are. Brandon, you can save your LB at any time, bro. Just throwing it out there.
I know he ain't gonna bump it then.
I was on mute. I mean, I thought Ron was out there looking pretty cool too. I think he had to, if I can't grow a beard, so I'm not in this conversation. I haven't never shaved a day in my life. So if I could grow a beard, I would like it to be all kind of colors. I would just kind of go with it. I had to stop shaving. I had to start buying clippers just to shave my mustache because it started getting worse as I got older. You know what I'm saying? Like I used to have a nice little stash. Man, that stuff started getting thin and ratty. I had to just cut it out, man. It's ridiculous.
Bro, those are middle school problems.
It's ridiculous, man. My facial hair is going backwards in time.
You got that Benjamin Button facial hair?
Yeah, just the facial hair. Like my hair on my head is not falling out, but the hair on my face is like, we give up. We gave you
can't have both. That's what it is.
Yeah,
you can't have both.
We can give you like 15 good years, man. That's it.
All righty. What's going on in your world, Brandon?
Well, I got engaged recently. So
congratulations.
Congrats.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Other than that, man, I'm just working, trying to keep up with all this craziness in the world and, doing this Zoom thing, online teaching and stuff like that. So looks like in the fall, we'll be back partially in person. I'm going to do one in-person class and one on Zoom. So, we're getting back to some semblance of normalcy come the fall, and I'm looking forward to it.
I mean, is your university going to require COVID vaccines? I know some schools are. Have they talked about that yet?
I highly doubt that the Kansas legislature will allow them to do that. The Kansas legislature was actually saying that they wanted to get the COVID-19 funds and then refund every student that took a class online. Like people don't take classes online when it was not COVID. So I highly doubt they're going to make us or require people to have vaccines. But I think that most people that work at the university will have vaccines because they are already like shooting us up. The university staff has already been shot up, staff and stuff like that. And now they send out emails to get all the faculty shot up and graduate students and stuff like that. So I'm pretty sure everybody that works for the university will probably more than likely super majority or 90-80% be shot up. I'm not sure about the students.
You got your vaccines yet?
I got one. I got my first shot of Pfizer about 2 weeks ago.
Okay. Razi, you get your second shot this weekend. Buff, you're completely vaccinated or?
I think I'm the odd man. I did not. I was going to wait a full year to see how it affects y'all.
Okay.
You know that, man. You don't want to. You got to be careful then if you're gonna wait a full year because you don't want the side effects for men are devastating.
Yeah,
they are devastating. If you get that COVID, man, you're gonna get the ED, and Viagra does not work on this COVID ED.
It's that bad.
Yeah, so Viagra, Cialis does not work on this COVID ED.
So you spoke about the government there. So what's going on? Aren't you on like some like safety commission or something like that over there as well?
Yeah, I was appointed to the governor's commission on equity and racial justice. And so what we do is examine different policy issues throughout the state. We have a bunch of hearings and things like that. And then we propose these, we give these like kind of like white papers, these policy recommendations to be able to make the state more equitable, racially speaking. And also, we look at things like socioeconomics, poverty and stuff like that too. The first one we put out last year was about criminal justice reform in the state of Kansas. This time we're looking at more of equity issues. So I'm on the subgroup that's looking at economic stuff. And then we have one looking at health public health, and then another one is looking at education. Another part of the commission. So we broke up into 3 parts.
Nice.
Sounds impressive. I'm impressed. So, Razi, how do I put this? I heard you putting Sophie to sleep before we started. So never mind. You got a joke for us?
Yeah. Well, I mean, kinda, but it's a math joke, and so they're always funny. But folks always talk about y equals mx plus b, and all those jokes are fine and well and everything. But at some point, we really need to just draw the line on those.
I hate you.
His defense is he works better when it's not set up, when he's just able to throw it in there. That's his defense.
See, Brandon got it.
I get it.
I mean, bro, you always say that.
I ended up taking Cal 4, bro. So trust me, I got it. Yeah. Or Cal 3. I don't know, one of them. Trust me, bro.
Essentially, most of the stuff I do is statistics, so it's a bunch of lines. It's a bunch of ordinary least squares, so it's a bunch of y equals mx plus b. It's a bunch of
So you actually using it in real life. So see,
I don't write it down.
Folks would be
Ordinary least squares regressions is based on that y equals mx plus b line, and essentially that most response. If you ask 100 people a question, most responses will cluster in a certain space. Most people are very alike, and then you'll have outliers, and the line is drawn through the cluster where it is closest to most of all the points. So the line is drawn through the cluster where it is closest to most all the points, and the space between those points are residuals and stuff like that. That's not important, but it's a line.
Can we get a smart motherfucker button?
It's a line.
Well, did you cross that line today?
I haven't done. I ain't opened my state of the day. I use a software package, so it does most of the stuff for me. But I haven't opened state of the day. I mostly just did administrative stuff. I graded yesterday, and I did a bunch of administrative stuff today. So some dude canceled the Zoom on me. It's the second time this dude canceled me on the Zoom. I'm starting to take it personal.
You should. Yeah. I take those personally when I'm at work.
Yeah, he hit me up. It's like, hey, I'm going to talk about this paper, and then cancel the Zoom. And it's the second time he did that and canceled the Zoom the same day. So I'm not going to fall. I'm not going to fall for that anymore.
Just be petty. Yeah, just be petty. Be like, you know what? Fail.
No, he going to send me.
That's why I can't be a professor.
Razi, I hit you up earlier this week, and we were just talking in general, and that's part of the reason that led us to having Brandon on the show today. Would you like to kind of recap the question or the conversation we were having?
Yeah. So, we just, again, kind of listening to the show after the last week's show, and we kind of touched on kind of the Chauvin trial and everything. And Ferg kind of hit me up, just kind of talking about how we can kind of follow up and really get deep into what's happening with this and why is it kind of it's different, and it feels like there is kind of an awakening of the police force and everything when you have folks like the chief of police kind of testifying against a police officer. Is it different? Do we think it's going to change anything? Do we think the outcome's going to change anything? Or even if Chauvin gets off, we were kind of just talking through, do we really think that it is at least breaking the blue wall of silence, and finally, police forces are starting to see that, look, if you say that there's only a few bad apples in there, you got to start calling them out, right? You can't say, oh, those are the bad apples, but then you let them off. And I think that's what's kind of starting to show in this trial with the police force actually testifying against Chauvin. So we wanted to kind of discuss that. And that's where we were kind of thinking about who would be kind of best in our circles to be able to speak to it and kind of address it either from a historical standpoint, from, a political science standpoint, from, the African-American history of it all. And I was like, Brandon probably can just tell us all that. And so that's how it ended up happening. So Brandon, we just really wanted to pick your brain on just kind of what's happening, kind of walk us through that, and then just kind of let us know what's going on that.
Before you start, this actually started with your comment, Buff. I literally was listening to the episode, your ending was kind of like, it's not going to change. And part of me felt that. Like, I felt where you were coming from. Like, no matter what happens, if he gets off, if he doesn't, nothing's going to change. But then it made me think about, I guess, precedents being set. And could this be the Great Awakening? Could this be the beginning of something bigger? Or because it was so polarizing in the example of how he killed this man, murdered this gentleman, it's like, yeah, but it's going to have to be that same scenario where an officer leans on somebody's neck for nearly nine minutes to get that same result. Or the next time somebody gets shot and killed unarmed, can we lean on this trial to get the same result? So that's what kind of was going on in my head. It's like, it could be a good thing. So Brandon, you can, however you want to answer that. We even talked about qualified immunity a lot, Razi and I, and how this might change that, or certain states are getting rid of that. So however you want to answer that. Buff, you're the other political guy. So I'm just going to sit back here and look stupid and ask questions as I see fit.
Well, I would say I'm I got a foot in the Buff camp. I think that even with a conviction, this trial is not going to change policing as we know it throughout the United States. I think that I think that this trial is getting attention and getting air because we're in the it was already a more something that was more salient, this type of police violence, and then through COVID, more people on the internet and more people saw the video. I think that the trial is following the pattern that they usually follow, right? So essentially blaming the murder victim for their murder. And in a sense, from what I gained from the trial is that they're blaming Mr. Floyd for his prior drug use or whatever for the trial. They're blaming him for, not resisting. And they're also blaming the people who watched him be murdered, saying that, he didn't get up off his neck because of the crowd. Like there was some kind of people were pressing against him or something like that, but, which is ridiculous. But I think that even in that, when you see the police chief and all the police department people coming out and saying that, this is not procedure, this is not right, we fired him for this, things like that. That is laudable in a sense that it's happening, but that's not something I think will be transferable to other police departments around the country. I don't think other police departments are going to start breaking down their blue walls to ensure that cops who do bad things are punished. I don't think that's going to happen. I think one reason that's not going to happen is because police unions are very fragmented in such that a police union could just cover one police department. And so there is no continuity between the police and the sheriff and the state agencies or the federal. There is no continuity between those two things. So there's no reason to believe that other police departments would start, breaking down their blue wall per se to be honest about what's happening or to testify against one of their own. I think that, I thought I'm bad at predicting these things. I thought Trayvon Martin Zimmerman would get convicted, right? But again, think about this, that they said that to get Zimmerman off, they said that the sidewalk was a lethal weapon and that Trayvon Martin was using the sidewalk as a weapon against Zimmerman, who equally could have used the sidewalk, right? It's the sidewalk. He couldn't pick it up and smash it. It's not like, what's that one on Netflix, The Boys? It's not like The Boys where you're a superhero and you just pick up, slap a sidewalk and hit somebody with it. So they're still, they use all sorts of things to blame this or to blame, these deaths on the people who have been killed. And I think that is something that the court or that defense is something that the court is ill-equipped to battle against, because that is something that is built into the American criminal justice system is built into the theoretical construction of blackness, of black males, being super strong and superhuman abilities, where you have to use a type of strong lethal force against them and things like that. So I think I'm with Buff when it's saying I'm reluctant that this will. I'm very skeptical that this will change policing, going forward.
No matter of the decision or the conviction.
No matter decision or conviction, because if they find him not guilty, I mean, that's just status quo. That's not. I mean, we're gonna get upset and people gonna march, people gonna put stuff on the internet and whatever, but that's the status quo. That there's not a track record of police being found guilty of this. So the status quo is not guilty. So a guilty verdict, regardless of what they say, 'cause other people, we won't first degree or whatever. If they found him guilty of murder, if it's manslaughter, that's murder. And so, that's something. But I don't think that will be like the straw that breaks the camel's back, and not all these police departments change their ways.
Yeah, because the way I proposed it to Razi was, if they find him guilty of whatever charge, could this set a precedent where the next killing, because it's going to happen. So I never think they're going to change policing. I just want to think about the court or the legal side of it. It's like, okay, people are going to do what they're going to do. But once it gets into the court of law, and I'm not freaking thinking that things are just going to be that great, but once it gets into court of law, can they go back? Well, Chauvin versus the state, this is what happened. It's just how we got the conviction. Can they use this to their advantage? Or is there what is the best case scenario that can come from this outside of just a conviction? Or is that all we got?
Well, precedent is important. Court precedent is important. If you don't have precedent, then like you said, you cannot cite those cases to say, this, that, or the other. So precedent is important. It will set a precedent, but one case is not. I think it's a big brick on the way of building a wall around protecting people's civil liberties and civil rights. But I don't think it will be the immediate wall to say that Derek Chauvin was convicted, and so now all cops can be convicted, because circumstances are going to differentiate between the two. Now, David Chauvin, what he did has not a shooting. So, a lot of times these individuals are shot. So how is that going to pertain to a shooting? People will say this is not relevant to a shooting case because this is not a discharge of a firearm. This is not a shooting case. So it won't. I don't think it'll be a blanket protection. Now, if somebody else, kneel on somebody's neck, it will be highly relevant. But for them, for other cases, as far as unarmed black person being shot, it wouldn't have been. It won't be as useful.
Policing reflects America. Okay. So until the attitude and the racism in America changes, you're not going to see any significant changes in policing. And we've seen white police officers be held accountable for it. Slager, when he killed Walter Scott, I think the officer that shot at the brother that he told to reach for his driver's license, and when he reached for it, he shot at him in South Carolina. They've been held accountable for it, and nothing has changed. And Ferg, you're right. But I want to clarify those comments on last week's episode. I wasn't necessarily saying things aren't going to change, although I believe that. I just was telling people who were invested in watching this trial and every detail in it, that at the end of the day, what are you going to get from it? You're watching it to either be upset or excited that he gets convicted. At the end of the day, he's not coming home to his kids. He's not going to be alive. And like Brandon said, if he's found not guilty, that's par for the course right there. We see that all the time. So just try not to get so emotionally involved, because it's going to be a letdown no matter what the decision is.
Yeah, I think I have the same kind of mentality. I have not been watching the trial like I watched other trials. I think simply for the fact is that I don't want to get invested and get let down. I have spent so much psychological capital and well-being following these cases, thinking to myself, they cannot find this person innocent. How can they not find this person guilty of this crime? And then they do. And then that's it. There's nothing you can do about it. So I think this trial I've been following more so from articles and news reports than listening to the testimony every day, because I don't want to be as invested when the verdict comes down.
And quietly during this trial, I think like there have been like 3 police shootings that they've decided on where they were not found at fault for anything wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Well, one was a beating where I think the police
Undercover
officers
cop,
beat the undercover cop,
coworker.
and
they beat their coworker.
They said because of the chaos. They didn't know. They couldn't tell that he was one of them. It's not okay to beat anybody like that.
Yeah. But you see how the chaos helped them get off.
Yeah.
And now Derek Chauvin's attorney is saying it was a lot of chaos at the scene.
Could you see across the street?
This dude tried to say the man was yelled at him. Like a bystander was yelling at him, so he felt like threatened or whatever. Like, man, come on, you're a police officer. You can't take being yelled at.
And you got 4 other police officers around you, but that, and so I get it, and that's what made me want to, because I get part of me wants I think we all want a conviction, but the way I was taking that, Byron, is like, even with a conviction, it's only going to do so much. Mm-hmm. And then that's why I start thinking about law precedent and court precedent in there. It's like, even if this sets a precedent, it's going to have to be into the similar situation where somebody has to lean on somebody's neck for 9 minutes. It could happen again and he leans on it for 6 minutes. Well, that's completely different, because those extra 3 minutes is when he blacked out and yada, yada, yada. And they did try to resuscitate him after minute 10 or something like that. It changed, just a little change in it that's what's so crazy. The guilty until proven innocent. I mean, innocent until proven guilty is one thing, but it's reasonable beyond a shadow of a doubt. Like, that's what all they have to do is put any doubt in a juror's head, and technically they're supposed to just say, you know what? I could see him being a little. Maybe the crowd did do that, and that maybe. All it takes one. We don't all have to say that have that same doubt. All it takes is one person, and that's what's so crazy. But that doubt, to me, that doubt only happens when it's us, but
or the drug thing. It's amazing how people think that when only black people on drugs, we're superhuman. Like, other people use drugs, they regular, but when black people use drugs, it's like that movie Power, right? So you just get like all these super strength and all these kind of abilities and stuff like that. I mean, it's I mean, that's as Bo was saying, that's racial. Like the idea that black people are.
But what's so funny about the drug part is when his girlfriend testified. Yes. She said they struggled with opioids. We're in the middle of an opioid crisis.
From prescriptions.
It's a crisis when it's white people. When a man is having his neck knelt on by a police officer, he's a drug addict. It was so crazy. I'm like, and we've been talking about that I think we even mentioned on an episode when they were talking about the opioid crisis. And all of a sudden it became a crisis once white people got involved.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Razi, what you got for us? You've been quiet over there, man.
I think that I don't think the trial is going to change much. I think the entire process that we've gone through, from the recording, the Black Lives Matter movement, all of the protests that we've seen and everything like that, has started to change things. So I don't, like Brandon said and Buff said, I don't think that the blue wall of silence is going to come down overnight and everything. But I think that what it will start to show some police forces is that if you do call out these bad apples, then you don't have that visceral reaction from your community. You don't have that distrust of your force from that community. You can actually community police and everything if you did that. And that's what I'm hoping, is that community sees that, look, the police force didn't protect that bad apple. It wasn't them that did that. And so I'm hoping that, but I do think that we are at a watershed moment for this. When we look at a lot of these states that are passing qualified immunities going away, they're not letting, I think it was, I can't remember if it was New Mexico or it's one state that's already passed
New Mexico.
that they did away with qualified immunity for all public officials. So not just police officers. So I think they're the first state to do that. There's a couple of other states that are already doing that, and municipalities that are already doing that. You see a lot of municipalities that are changing, and I won't say defunding the police because everybody hates that phrase, but they're reorganizing. It is a terrible phrase, but what they are doing is they're reorganizing and they're putting more mental health professionals in the street, and they are actually responding. 911 is not sending police officers to mental health emergencies now. They're sending this new unit. So those things are happening, and they're happening mainly because of just everything that happened along the Black Lives Matter movement that happened because of that recording and the reaction to that. So I do think that this is a watershed moment. I don't think the trial is going to make a big difference in it.
So the only pushback I will offer is you saying this is the one time he's not being protected by the blue wall. He absolutely was protected by the blue wall. He was assisted by the blue wall. He was assisted by 2 other officers on the scene at that time. Let's not fool ourselves. The only reason we have a chief willing to openly testify and other officers openly testify is because it was caught on camera from beginning, middle to end. And then you're right, Razi, some of the outpouring of reaction really got people galvanized to like say, hey, wait a minute, hold on. But it took a man to not just be killed. Like Brandon mentioned, we've seen people be shot. He was literally tortured to death live on social media. And
in front of people.
Yes, and I think that's the only difference in the
children.
If this had been a little more hidden to where everything wasn't seen, everything wasn't noticed, I can't confidently say that people will be openly testifying against him.
If it was just body cam video, I would
Where
agree.
they can say off camera this happened and off camera this happened and you couldn't see this angle and everything like that. I can see that.
He was still resisting. Hell, they're still trying to go with that right now.
Even though they said that he stopped resisting at like minute 5 or 6 or something. So there was like 2 or 3 additional minutes, and then they were like, they were trying to use the defense of the whole, fear for their life and split second decision. I'm like, it's not split second. It was like 523 seconds. Like, it's not a split second decision at that point. Like, let's be honest about it.
And insert Harry Dunn's response to that fear for my life rhetoric too. I love that response.
I would just say this about the bad apple thing. So there's not a lot of good data on police shootings. There's not a lot of good data on police shootings, namely because police departments are not required to report that to a central agency. So it's spotty and shoddy, and the different places that gather the data, they don't match, all that type of stuff. However, there was this huge, North Carolina has a system where if you get pulled over, they have to fill out a form to say why they pull you over, the race of the people, who was in the car, what they did after they pull you over, whatever. And so we have like all this data, 10 years of pullover data in North Carolina. And what the researchers found is that obviously people of color, blacks and Hispanics get pulled over more. Not only do they get pulled over more, they're more likely to be searched for probable cause. So not like for things that are actually happening for like, discretionary reasons. And they're less likely to get tickets. So that means they're getting pulled over and searched for things they can't be ticketed for, which puts them in a more likelihood to have some type of physical altercation with police. And the data also shows from North Carolina that whites are more likely to have contraband. So if one cop is pulling over 10 people of color a week, the one white person they pull over is more likely to have contraband than any of the 10 people they pull over. What they also found is that it's not that in a department it is one person or 2 people doing this. So the bad apple theory goes out the window when you talk about pullovers, such that it is a general thing that cops are more, because they don't have, the data doesn't have the race of the police officers, but it's a general thing that cops in every jurisdiction or whatever pull over minorities and search them more than they do whites. So what that data shows us is that it's not a bad apple thing. Right there, but that again, I say a purpose that, but that's not shooting data, that's not killing data, right? That's the use of force data. This is pullover data. And the pullover data shows us in North Carolina, which can be generalized to other states, that it is not a bad apple thing. that this is just a general practice predilection for police officers to be more likely to pull over people of color, and not only to pull them over, but to pull them out the car and search them. That also said, I think goes along with what Buff was talking about. Like, this is policing reflects racism in America. It reflects our perception of the other, of the racial minority in America. And I think that goes a lot into, those perceptions of people being out of place. Too many people being in a car, they must be up to no good or something like that. I think it goes to that reflection of people perceiving blacks and people of Hispanics or whatever of being out of place and of being, involved in things that, they may have no connection to it. Like, I remember when I had that Caprice. Caprice in Birmingham. I had a Chevy Caprice, 95 Chevy Caprice, and I was working at this hotel, and I was a food and beverage manager, so I wore a suit to work at that time. And I remember a cop pulled me over in Homewood, walked up to the window, put a flashlight in the car, and saw I had a suit on, turned around and walked off because I wasn't what he was looking for. He was looking for somebody in that car in a different situation. And when he saw I had a suit on, he was like, I just walked off but that is an inappropriate pullover. That is completely inappropriate pullover. And if I wasn't dressed like that, maybe he would have pulled me out the car. Maybe he would have asked to search my car. Maybe he would have handcuffed me. Something would have went wrong. I don't know. But that's just goes to show, like, anecdotal evidence that, these things are happening, and they're not happening because, as the data shows in North Carolina, because of one or two cops in the precinct.
I'm glad you brought that up. I'm glad you brought that up because
I think I gave that. Oh, go ahead, Vert.
I think that one bad apple is overused so much because I think we have to look at the normal mentality of certain people. If this is their mentality, yes, people step outside the norm. So you have your Chauvins and people like that step outside the norm. But is the norm safe? Is the norm healthy? I always try to compare different aspects of life. I think about as young men, or I guess middle-aged men, young men who are who grew up in that what Charlemagne coined the rape culture. As we're becoming more aware, there was a certain norm that we were used to. But when you look back as men, how we reacted and how as a group of men we treated women, we weren't hanging with rapists or anything. But the average guy probably was. The norm for us was not necessarily a healthy norm. And so I think the same thing with the police. It's not a healthy norm. It's just especially, I know 3 people on here were being the bros. There was just parties and things we went to that was just an acceptable norm that we fell into that should not have been. That's not acceptable. It shouldn't be acceptable. But we fell into it. So I think that's the same thing that happens with police force. They're pulling over black people for no reason. Yeah, I didn't beat your.
For my political future, I just want to say that I worked the door at every party, so I didn't fall into any of those norms.
I would say but he's right though. I mean, like, think about like at Bama or I remember at Auburn, somebody got caught selling the white fraternity's date rape drug by the gallon, like liquefied date rape drug by the gallon at Auburn, right? And that's nothing. That's like that would be unheard of at one of our groups. That would be unheard of. If someone like drugging people. That'd be unheard of. But you get a little handsy. You know what I'm saying? I mean, we didn't think at that time when we were young, we didn't think anything of that.
It's part of the culture. Right? It's part of the culture. It was the police culture.
It was the norm was inappropriate. Right. So but it wasn't so far that we would say, you could drug these women and take them with you. No, we're not going to. We're not going to let that. Yeah, and that's too far, bro. That's too, But I mean,
so you'll pull over an unarmed black guy. You might search their car. You might make their life difficult. But the average police officer is not going to shoot an unarmed black person.
But I think Bus Point comes back because if there wasn't this video, what those other police officers would have learned is that you can kill a man and get away with it because we the police. And we go. So the norm for those rookies, because some of them guys was rookies, so the norms for those rookies would have been. You have to, anytime a black man over 5'10", you have to treat them like they are, NFL football players or something. You got to handcuff them. You got to hold them down. You got to choke them out because you never know what might happen to you. And if they die, it's okay because because that's how you got to treat them. And so it establishes a culture of this is how you treat this type of person. This is how you treat this type of person. That's why cops get out the car and shoot Tamir Rice within 2 seconds, right? Because that type of person with a gun is dangerous. Let's just shot the guy with the BB gun in Walmart after he yelled, "It's not real." Right. And after all those types of things, and other instances where you have mass shooters recently, right, and even in the past, get taken alive, get taken to Burger King, right? You let certain type of people, ransack the Capitol for as long as they feel like ransacking it.
Yeah, that those same type of people can walk down the street with a weapon, open carry. Nobody question them, but you see one of us walk down the street with an AR-15 open carry, and we're getting pulled over.
Yeah, shoot first, ask questions later.
And to get back to my Reflect America attitude, most of those cases, Brandon named, were initiated by people calling the police on Tamir Rice, on Jonathan Crawford. So.
Yeah.
And people, and some people call the police, I think out of, some people probably have genuine concerns, but other people know, right? So other people know that, especially, I'm talking about white people, know, like, especially the great example of the woman in the park with the brother that was out there looking at birds. She knew I could call a hit in on you. She knew I have the authority as a white person. I have power, and I can activate that power, and I can use that power against you, right? And I will call in a hit on you just so I don't have to put my dog on a leash.
It was a modern day Emmett. She tried to attempt a modern day Emmett Till.
Emmett Till type,
because the way she inflated her voice and everything on that phone. Yeah. He's threatening me.
Then she told her, "I'm gonna tell them a black man is doing this." Right. So which literally what she tell, I'm gonna tell them to come kill you. Can you put your dog on a leash? I'm gonna tell people to come kill you. Right. So in some instances, there's an actualization, but I think that again goes to the culture, right? The ability or understanding, having the white people knowing that they can navigate these racial waters in a way that could be detrimental to us whenever they feel like it. Right. Yeah. Whenever they feel like pulling that trigger, or not the trigger, whenever when they feel like pulling that cord, they can start it up.
It's a trigger.
So kind of that segues into kind of the second topic that we really kind of wanted to talk about is so they have this trigger, right? They have this lever they can pull. They have the law behind them. And so we really wanted to talk through these new Jim Crow laws that are starting to come up these days, like Georgia, and we can't give water in lines. But where are the lines at? They're in historically black areas. Why do they have lines? Because you shut down a bunch of the polling sites, or you understaff polling sites, so that you cause the line, but then you say that it's illegal for people to bring water for people. They're making it harder to vote by mail. They're making it, and then getting pissed when places like MLB, the Major League Baseball pulls the All-Star game, right?
That's
Mitch McConnell saying, basically Mitch McConnell hit us with the shut up and dribble for corporate America.
He refused to throw out the ball.
Yeah, but think about this. Back when Obama was in office and they got the Supreme Court Citizens United ruling that said corporations are people and money is speech. They were like, hell yeah, corporations is people, money is speech. Corporations say Republicans, y'all shouldn't do this. And Republicans say, shut the fuck up.
Shut up.
Shut the fuck up. You can't be talking about politics. Nigga, you just said.
And then the funny part about it, Mitch McConnell said, y'all shouldn't be talking about politics. You don't know nothing about it. I'm not talking about political contributions, but I am talking about you can't say nothing. I'm like, wait a minute.
But they said Citizens United, corporations were people, money is speech. So if the MLB doesn't want, it's a company. It's a corporation. They cannot have the game there if they don't want to. But they don't. It's corporations are people and money is speech. As long as you support and finance Republicans, if you do not, then we're gonna take your tax subsidies away and all this type of stuff.
Yeah, but they ain't say nothing to the My Pillow guy.
No, because he's on their side, right? Yeah. But I mean, I think the new Georgia voting, it shouldn't even be called a voting bill. The new Georgia restrictive voting legislation, I think, is essentially par for the course where Republicans have been going. I mean, Republicans have been initiating all of these restrictions on voting to include gerrymandering, voter IDs, voter roll purges, limiting on days you can vote. All this. They have been inching towards constricting who was allowed to vote for the past, I don't know, decade. I mean, Republicans
what was it since they haven't renewed the Voting Rights Act since Obama got in, right? Like I think it only got renewed 2 years, and then after that, once they took the majority after the midterms, the Voting Rights Act hasn't been renewed since then, and so that's how the Supreme Court overturned the Voting Rights Act. So that's why they don't have to actually get all these laws approved anymore, right?
Yeah. So the Shelby v. Holder case invalidated Section 4B, which was preclearance. So bad actor states, namely the South, had to submit these new changes to the Justice Department, and the Justice Department said yay or nay could they do those things. So after that, states started doing all kinds of voting rights restrictions or whatever. So the key thing about what the Republicans are doing is that they, unlike Democrats, see the prognosis. They see the writing on the wall. Republicans have not won the popular vote in a presidential election. They have lost it in 7 of the last 8 presidential elections. They have lost the popular vote in 7 of the 8 last presidential elections. And the one they did win is George Bush's second term after 9/11 and a war. So they only won it because they had a terrorist attack and a war president. They don't have the popular backing in order to elect a nationwide candidate. So what do? They have chosen not to change issues or to evolve with the electorate. They have chosen to decide who gets to vote. And not only are they restricting voting rights, another important part of that is gerrymandering. So most of the people, the reason you see, like, okay, so the shooting in Colorado, and there's a poll that says 70% of Americans support universal background checks. The reason Republicans don't give a shit about that is because most of them are in districts that are so heavily Republican, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to them. It doesn't matter. They have gerrymandered those districts to where it's only a more extreme Republican can win that district. It's impossible for a Democrat, and the push is for more and more extreme Republicans who could out Republican you to get in those districts, which leads to other things like extremism, Trumpism,
QAnon,
all that sort of stuff. Yeah, it leads to that, right? So. I mean, so they have been on this march, and the past regime on this big lie about the election was stolen and fraud. They have essentially jumped on that diving board and jumped off to say that, oh, see, people don't trust the election, even though they're the ones that spread the lie and caused the confusion. They're jumping off of that, saying, see, people don't. They don't trust the election, so we need to have voting bills to bring back, people's confidence in the election. But they don't have confidence because you lied to them, right? And like Mitt Romney said, if you want people to trust the election, stop lying to them. And I think one of the most egregious things in the Georgia law, and I'll shut up. One of the most egregious things in the Georgia law is that they stripped the Secretary of State, who is usually the person that oversees elections. Why is that important? Because the Secretary of State is an elected official. Not in every state. I can't say in every state. I'm rusty on my state politics. But in most states, that is a separate elected official who is accountable by election to the state. That person, they have stripped the authority of that person to oversee elections. And they're going to give it. And so the legislature is going to appoint unelected people to oversee elections who have the authority to dismiss county boards of elections and do what they want to do with that election. What that means is, when Trump said, go find me some votes, overturn this election, and find me those votes, Georgia can now do that in the next election run.
Dang,
Well,
Georgia can now do that. They can now do that in the next election run. So when they say Jim Crow on 2.0, a lot of people are like, oh, they exaggerating or whatever. No, they have literally stripped the Secretary of State, the man who came on camera, who got caught on that video, who recorded himself on that video, telling Donald Trump, the facts are wrong, your data's wrong, you lost the election. They have stripped him of the authority he had to run the statewide elections, and they're going to give it to a appointed board who has the ability to dismiss county authorities and to recount and do what the hell they want to do with those elections. Suspend county election superintendents.
And that's one of their new MOs too, right? Because Alabama, they tried to do that with the school board. Mm-hmm. They tried to make it an appointed board instead of an elected school board for the state.
Yeah, I mean that's like, that's a major power grab, and the reason that's important, right? And the only reason that not the only reason, but the reason that's important that Georgia can do that is because of gerrymandering. So think about this. So there's a Pew Research Center polls states or whatever, and essentially Alabama is the only state in the Deep South that's majority Republican. And how majority Republican is? Like 52%. 52%. The rest of the Deep South states, Georgia, Louisiana, South Carolina, Mississippi, are roughly 50-50 or slightly majority Democrat. How is it then that these states' legislatures are 60-70% Republican? Redistricting. They have fixed the game such that they're going to have control of those states for the foreseeable future. That's why, I don't want to go too far back. That's why Trump was so crazy about the census, because the census allows them to redistrict. And so, and because they have this power, the state legislatures, they can keep passing laws that restrict voting, and they can ignore the will of the majority of the people within those states because they don't need the majority, right? They don't need the majority. Like, Republicans have what they call they're overseated. I can't remember the exact word. They're overseated. So like Democrats in a state may win 60% of the vote and get 69% of the seats. Republicans get 50% of the vote and get 79, 80% of the seats because of how they district that shit.
Because Democrats be trying to do the right thing. That's the problem.
They don't play hardball. Mm-hmm. They for some reason the Democrats don't play hardball. And
who does the Republican Party protect, though? I think if you look at their methods and who they protect, it's a calling card. It's a calling card for white supremacy because you are the minority now. How do we protect the minority? That's kind of what white supremacy is right now. It's like, how do we protect our way of life? We are being overrun. So if the politics of it, to me, represents like, hey, we'll never be the majority again, but this is how we keep the power. That's all it is to me. It's just simple. Like it's a power trip, and it shows America again. Like, hey, Caucasians you're not the majority, or the people that think like you're not the majority, but we can protect your ways. Just support us enough where we can keep you in power. And I don't see anything. Can we do anything to overturn Georgia?
The majority is threatened too. So even if they don't tell them they're not the majority, they tell them your majority is going to be threatened, and that's why we have to do something at the border and all that stuff too.
Yeah. It is. I think it's exactly that, and it's a thing. Like you said, it's a power thing. Republicans are more interested in power than they are anything else. Think about this. They had the White House for 4 years. They didn't pass one infrastructure bill. They didn't pass one healthcare bill to replace Obamacare. They had the president, the Senate, and the House. All they passed was a
budget deficit the entire 4 years they had.
Yeah. All they did was pass a tax cut that blew a hole in the deficit. That's all they did. I mean, but they are in it for power. And I think, again, there's a great book that my advisor wrote with another guy called White
Hard white, right?
Hard white. Yeah, thank you. Hard white. And then hard white, it talks about the mainstreaming of white nationalist ideology or whatever. And it jumps off from the Tea Party, right? Because we all remember the Tea Party came out and they were like, oh, low taxes, but they was also burning, stuffed Obamas. So we're like, I don't know if that's about low taxes. I don't know what you got to do with low taxes. You burning Obama, you burning Michelle Obama, epithets of Michelle Obama, or whatever. And so what Trump did, fast forward to Trump, from Tea Party to Trump was able through Facebook to micro target these individuals in a way that with ads that only you see. So like these white people are getting ads that are saying the Mexicans are coming, they're taking your jobs, they're giving all this money to black people. I can't, I'm just being facetious now, but like all these bad things are happening against white people. And it just drummed up like what we call out-group resentment. So people who are not resentment against others, or for white people, resentment against people of color, and they micro-targeted individuals just to piss them off in the hopes that they would go out and vote. But what they didn't understand was that was going to fuel stuff like QAnon, rise in white nationalism, white supremacy, and things like that.
I think you're giving them too much. Did they care?
They didn't care. Yeah, they didn't care.
Because all that stuff, once they saw, it's like, oh, we made a mistake. They try to do the same thing again. It's like QAnon, there's no downside for QAnon for them. As a matter of fact, it gets more supporters because those guys are loyal and they can say the shit that the politicians can't really say. So they got more supporters. Republicans are geniuses.
Because that's their thing, right? Is they keep talking about how do we make the tent bigger? How do we make the tent bigger?
They gave up on
that. And really,
it
comes down to their tent bigger is farther and farther right. It's more and more towards that white nationalist. They're not coming towards center at all. They don't want any of the Democrat voters. They just don't care at this point.
They have not been. The Republican Party has not been concerned about expanding their tent. When Romney lost to Obama, the Republican Party did an audit to where they say, okay, why do we lose? This is what typical campaigns do. Why do we lose? What can we do not to lose again? And the audit said, you have to expand the tent. You have to get young people, minorities, women. You have to expand the tent. And they just decided not to do that.
Now, are you guys sure about that? Because Trump's numbers, especially among black men, increased each election in 2016, and it raised up to double digits in 2020. So we may not think they're expanding the tent, but the message is reaching at least black men with Trump.
Yeah, but I mean, G.W. Bush, W got like 10% of the black vote. W got like 10% of the black vote. I think he got more of the black vote than we thought he would get, than he thought we would get. But I don't think the Trump campaign has made inroads into the black community, right? So essentially speaking, Hillary Clinton, the black vote for Hillary Clinton was reduced significantly from Obama, and the white outgroup resentment vote filled that void in a certain amount of states, like 70,000 votes, to put Trump into office. So it wasn't that he expanded across groups. It was that their campaign effectively mobilized outgroup resentment. But he did gain. Yeah, go ahead.
Don't you feel like Trump kind of targeted black men? I mean, because I know certain people, like I have family members who supported Trump because they're taking your jobs. I literally had an uncle get mad at me because I was defending, when we were talking about immigration, and he was like, they're taking jobs that once you get, that people get out of jail, black men that got out of jail could get. So you're like, okay, so you're mad because as a felon or as ex-cons, there are certain jobs that you can get, and now Hispanics are getting that. You don't see anything wrong about being a felon. You're just mad because they're taking the felon jobs. It's like, they
but like
the misogynistic part too.
They were able to target those individuals and say things to those people that they wouldn't be able to say on a normal commercial, right?
Yeah,
because if
Only
we
stuff
saw
they
that
saw.
commercial,
Yeah,
we'd call it out. We'd be like, "Oh no,
what the hell is
shit?
this?" Yeah, but they micro targeted people, individual people, and also there's something about, because it worked for Hispanic men too. There's something about Trump's brand of machismo that appealed to certain men. That brand of, I kick it over if I can't have it. You don't give me no lemonade, I kick the stand over.
Especially,
like that. Something about that Trump brand of machismo did appeal to black men. It appealed to Hispanic men and to a lesser extent Asian men.
Especially with this new
Byron,
attack
to your point, I think what happened is I don't think the Republican Party expanded the tent. I think Trump expanded the tent.
Yeah.
Trump
I can agree with that.
Yeah.
Trump is his own party. Trump was his own party because I think Trump hit people. You got to think put things in context. We hear so many men our age and older that feel like there's an attack on masculinity.
Yeah.
Trump represented what it is to be a man. He was misogynistic.
Yeah.
He said what he wanted to say. He was from the old school. You got to think Trump until Obama really he was invited to the picnic. You know what I'm saying? So there's a lot of people that grew up on Trump. Trump was quote unquote one of us. You wanted to be Donald Trump when you grew up. Like that's what people wanted. And then all of a sudden he gets into politics. And once again, I would say the average voter is dumb. It is what it is. So they don't know the politics behind it. They don't know the legislation. They don't know any of that stuff, but they know Trump and they know what he says and they know how he talks and they know what he talks about. And I don't know, man.
And they know what they see on The Apprentice and stuff, right? Golden Escalator, stuff like that. What we would say is the average voter is unsophisticated, which means that they
not dumb for.
Can you edit mine to say unsophisticated, Razi?
Unsophisticated means that uncouth. Unsophisticated means that the average person doesn't divulge as much time as you three do to politics and the average day-to-day goings-ons, right? So the average voter doesn't really, they're not watching CNN. They're watching 60 Minutes, something like that. They may get a glimpse of news from their Facebook feed, from the Daily Show, from some soft news site, from the radio. They listen to the radio and people on the radio are like, oh, in the news today, that's how they get their news. They're not someone who, the average person is not someone who sits and digests, what the daily goings on of the country or the world. And so we would call them unsophisticated, but yeah, they didn't know anything about Trump. And it's like you said, they didn't know anything about the bankruptcies, right? The not paying people who worked on his campaigns, the not paying of people, the Central Park Five, right? They didn't know that was not something that was widely, known or publicized, that Donald Trump took out.
And going back to the Democrats, didn't use it because they used
it. Yeah. If you think he wouldn't have used it.
I know that's one of your things you hit on before. Do you remember anybody bringing up the Central Park Five in any of the debates or anything against Trump?
I think Hillary did, didn't she? But see, Razi said they didn't use it. There was a lot of Hillary was the worst candidate for Trump to run against because there was a lot of stuff she couldn't bring up. Trump grabbed pussies. Her husband is a sexist, whatever. You know what I mean? So she couldn't bring that up. Trump criticized the Central Park Five. Her and her husband were responsible for the 3 strikes law. She was also quoted as saying
she used super predators. Yeah.
So everything that Trump did, she couldn't hit him with too hard because she was linked to it.
She was linked to it, yeah. That was the worst. 2016, when I'm sitting there like, this is the best America has to offer. Like, I had a headache thinking about that. Like, when we got back from, we were in Paris, that's what they were talking about, like,
yeah,
this what y'all put up after Obama?
But like I said, I don't know if I was on the show or I was just like talking to some friends on Facebook or something. But I was like, politicians. The thing about politicians is it's either it has to be in them that they always wanted to be a politician, or they just are there for the check. because like you can make so much more in the private sector. So if you're really trying to get the bag, a lot of people are not going in there. Why would I put my family through all the scrutiny and all the craziness that happens in politics when I can make 2 times as much in the private sector and, do a 9 to 5 and come home to my family every night and have to worry about all of that. So it is a niche of people that want to get into politics and that are willing to go through all of that. And so you don't get the brightest of the bright all the time. It's just is what it is on that.
Yeah.
Well,
I think. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
Yeah, I think the voters is the voting thing is key because, and I'll go back to it again. Republicans they see the writing on the wall, right? In 2017, Alabama elected a Democrat to the United States Senate. In 2018, Beto O'Rourke came within 2 percentage points of upsetting an incumbent Republican senator of Texas. 2 points. 2 points. For the first time in 60 years, 2 Democratic senators for Arizona. You got, and this is like especially relevant to the voting thing in Georgia. They limited early voting in runoff elections. Why? Because the 2 Democrats won both them seats in a runoff election. They won them seats in a runoff election. Georgia, a deep South state, elected the first Black and first Jewish senator in the state's history. Republicans see, but they see the writing on the wall, right? And so why not exploit? Why not exploit people's fears, right? It's less of a hurdle to do something like that when you see that your party is going the way of the Whig Party, right? It's going the way of the Know Nothing Party, parties that dissolved into history that we never even hear about anymore, because they are totally and completely unaligned with what people want. 70% of the people wanted the stimulus package. Republicans, not one vote. They're going to pass infrastructure, not one vote. Mm-hmm. They're going to pass both of the infrastructure bills, not one Republican vote.
But they'll keep winning. And what's going to mess them up, though, is HB1, because HB1 is going to pass. I see now. This is going to be crazy because I think they're going to actually do away with the filibuster, and it's going to come back to bite them in the ass if the Republicans ever do get a full majority in both houses, or the House and the Senate. But I think they're going to blow up the Senate, the filibuster, and they're going to pass HB1. Because truthfully, if they pass HB1, they don't have to worry about Republicans ever getting a majority again. I don't see it happening if HB1 passes.
There should be no reason that the Republicans are within 10 seats of the House. Think about it. I mean, like, there's more people in D.C. than there is in Wyoming, Montana, Idaho. There's more people in that one space than there is in whole states. Why do the Republicans still have? Because of gerrymandering. Right? Now the Senate is another beast. Now I don't know if they'll blow it up with the filibuster, but I think if the Democrats cannot grow a spine and get this Voting Rights Act passed, it's over. It's over. The Republicans will take the House in the midterm. They will take the Senate the next time around. They will restrict voting to its utmost limited, and they will take the presidency, and we will never have another majority Democrat House, Senate, or Democrat in the White House for the foreseeable future. Our children, our children's children will never see another Democrat in that White House.
Wow. And it could happen.
Yeah, think about after Reconstruction. After Reconstruction, we had Black people who were elected to the Congress, to the Senate, and after they bailed on Reconstruction, it was a century. We lost a century of political representation. A century. So like the idea from 1860s to 1965 Voting Rights Act, we lost a century of representation. And if you don't think that could suddenly happen again, then I believe you are mistaken, because the Republicans don't give a shit. They have proven to not give a shit. Mitch McConnell said we can't have hearings. We can't have hearings on a Supreme Court justice because it's 8 months before an election. But they seated one 30 days before an election. He gives no shit. He don't give a shit. He don't give a shit what you think about him. He don't give a shit about being a hypocrite. He don't give a shit.
He is one of the greatest politicians in modern history.
Because he doesn't give a shit. Because he doesn't give a shit.
And he never loses.
That's what happens when you gerrymander. That's what happens when you gerrymander.
He knows
and
the
you
game.
know that you aren't losing your seat.
He knows the game. He plays the game the way he plays the game the way it should be played in this situation. We're trying to do what's right, and he's going to do what's going to win.
He plays the game raw. Mitch McConnell plays the game raw. He does not give a shit.
He's a heel. Like if this was wrestling, he would be the heel that nobody could beat. That would be the people's champ. That will be 4 times all the belts. Like he doesn't care.
And Steady got some.
We need to get a shirt with Mitch on it that say "Don't hate the player, hate the game." Like he is the player. Like
Mitch McConnell don't give a shit, bro. Mitch McConnell don't give a shit. Mitch McConnell, when Mitch McConnell was blocking everything when Obama was there, Harry Reid said, we got to get rid of the filibuster because you won't let us get shit done. We're going to get rid of the filibuster for everything except Supreme Court nominations. Right? They was like, okay. Soon as Trump got in, they got rid of that shit for Supreme Court nominations. Mitch McConnell don't give a That's why I feel like, they can't worry about what Mitch McConnell threatened you with because he's going to do it anyway. He's going to do it. That man has no restraint. He's going to do it anyway. So if he says, if you get rid of filibuster, we're going to do this, that, and the other, we're like, yeah, we know.
And he's even more dangerous after Trump. He's even more dangerous after Trump because nothing's going to be as polarizing as Trump. Like Trump did what Mitch did, but he did it. He wasn't as intelligent and he was too wild with it. Mitch is going to do what he wants to do, but it all is going to seem it's not as big of a deal because it's better than what we had. That whole theory. At least he's not Trump. He plays the game well.
No.
Mitch is a hero.
The biggest threat is somebody like Josh Hawley or Ted Cruz coming in on that Trump who actually are competent individuals, who are actually Harvard trained, Stanford lawyer, Harvard trained, like competent individuals who are coming into this Trump aristocracy or Trump regime or Trump, like legacy of presidents doing that autocratic stuff, but actually know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And so
being able to hide their hand, be able to move smarter.
Yeah, Trump was caught every time he did something. Like every time that man did something, he got caught. Like he was like a person who's really bad at like cheating on their spouse, right? Like every time, he got phone numbers in his pocket. He got, people calling his house phone and people stopping by his house and job. He was like that, like a person that's very bad at cheating on their spouse. And like, he got caught all the time. That's not going to happen if you get a Josh Hawley or Ted Cruz.
But he shagged it. It wasn't me. The whole time, like none of that shit mattered. He did all that shit, and none of it mattered.
It didn't matter it didn't matter because the Republicans were unwilling to hold one of their own accountable. They were completely unwilling. And so he could have literally, like he said, hit somebody with a baseball bat, and they would have been like, don't get too close to the president. Don't get baseball bat length. It's in the Constitution.
It's all optics.
Just stay baseball bat length away.
Now, anything less is civilized. Anything less than Trump is civilized. So he set the bar so high or low, however you want to put it, that anything you do, just don't Trump this. That's kind of the thing. Don't Trump this.
If you don't Trump.
Yeah, but like you were talking about norms, I think that pushed the norms so far askew that the norm is now don't let this get any less than how Trump had it. Don't let this get any less ridiculous in my view than how Trump was. Because I thought that once he got out, there would be like a settling and a normalization. That has not happened. That has not happened at all. These people have stayed on 10, this entire for the last couple months. Who knows what happened in August, but there has been no slowing down of the former regime saying the election is stolen. There has been no slowing down of any kind of ridiculous, the ridiculousness they were on. So I think for the first point, they have pushed the norm to a point where they can't come back. And to come back from the Trump norm is to be a rhino, a traitor, against the Constitution or whatever, it's it's like everybody, those like Under Armour t-shirts that have like USA with the stars all around it, and they got the flag on the arm, like you served in the military. It's like everybody in the Republican Party got the new, Under Armour white supremacy fit, and so they gotta all wear it, and it's everywhere they go, so people can see they wearing it. They got to perform this ridiculous, play, because if they don't, somebody who will take their job.
Well, Brandon, I enjoyed you as usual. Having you on, bro. You are a smart mother. Razi, don't edit that out. Just let it be.
Gotta keep the kids in mind. Gotta keep the kids.
Okay. They keep me in check. But I appreciated it, bro. We're going to have you back very soon. Congratulations on the nuptials. I mean, the future nuptials again. Fellas, let's go ahead and close it out. What you got on your mind? What do you have on your mind?
The only thing I got is the whole HB1 thing. It kind of is pointless here in Alabama, but if you are in any state that does have any senators that may be swayed by calls, emails, or anything like that, tell them to go make the call and do what you can to let them know that you support HB1 and that you want to get that through, and whatever it takes to get that through, that you support that. So do that for us. Help us get through that so that we can actually get some type of Voting Rights Act back in place, and then we can fight back on some of these racist bills, because that's really what they are. These state bills are racist as I don't know what, and we need to get them out.
They're only racist in context.
And then,
They're only racist in context. That's how they're defending them. They're defending and saying, if you take it,
they're racist. That's
I know, I get it.
What they're saying, they're saying it's racist in context when you don't know the whole context. But like Brandon just explained all of it, and it's even more racist now that I've listened to Brandon about it. So like it's extra racist now. Like he was like, you know what? Here's some whipped cream on top of the racist sundae. So yeah, go out, talk to your senators, talk to your congresspeople, tell them whatever we need to do to make this thing happen, make it happen. But we need to get HB1 through. That's all I got, man.
Nothing from me, man. I just enjoy having Brandon on. Learned a lot as usual, especially about that Georgia law and some of the details in it. So especially like with the Secretary of the State not being over the vote anymore, that's huge, man. So it's always good to have smart people on, man. So I just appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, anytime, man. Thank you.
You got any parting words, Brandon? You mentioned a book. Did you want to pull up that book again?
Man, it's probably not. No, I would say saying this, but like a lot of the pushback from the corporations not speaking out against this bill, the Republicans are calling cancel culture, and now there are a lot of problems with cancel culture, but you can't be free market and be mad that when people movers in the market make free choices, and so don't be don't jump onto that, or believing that corporations that make decisions, right, to not support this or that is somehow a product of cancel culture. It's ridiculous. It's just Republicans have taken cancel culture and turned it into a talking point, and we have to push back against that.
All righty. Appreciate that. I'm going to leave with this. Want to have a moment of silence for the fallen officers. I don't want you guys to think we hate police. Was that last week at the Capitol? We had one officer seriously injured and one officer that was killed during a recent attack on the Capitol. So my prayers go out to them and their families, Buff, you and your family, and the rest of your team out there, because I know, it's a lot going on. And in no way are we trying to incite harm or change your mind. We just want to make people aware. We're not against police. We just want better policing. We want better justice. But anytime a life is lost, a life is lost. So want to say that. And once again, Brandon, appreciate you coming on. Three Brothers No Sense. Listen, like, share, subscribe, comment, and most importantly, listen again. Talk to you next week.